The Baltimore Ravens had a pretty incredible 2024 NFL draft, all things considered, but they also had an incredible undrafted free agency following it. We talk about a deep dive of the Ravens 2024 undrafted class, all that and more coming up next year on this episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you so much, as always, for being here and making Locked On Ravens your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also in audio form, you can follow along and subscribe over there as well for 5 days a week, plus more of daily Ravens content and coverage. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it's a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. We're now 1 week removed from the first night of the 2024 NFL Draft, Thursday to Thursday. It seems like it happened forever ago. It also seems like yesterday at the same time. But here with me today to talk about not just the Ravens 2024 rookie class, who they drafted, but the undrafted players as well. Former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Super Bowl champion, Qadry Ismail. Q, I know it was a whirlwind of a weekend for you, but I wanted to extend my personal congratulations to you and your son, Qadir, for the opportunity. For those who don't know, Qadir got an invite to the Ravens rookie minicamp, and it's a big moment for you, Q, I know, as a dad and everything that you've seen Qadir work for. So again, congratulations.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think, just looking back on the draft, this weekend was a lot different for me than previous draft weekends, to be honest with you. I looked at my Facebook page, and you know how they show memories. Well, 2016, we're talking about Ronnie Stanley, and then even before that, we're talking about Kelechi Osemele and, all these other names, Torrey Smith. And it's just so surreal because obviously this draft here now takes on a different meaning as a father, knowing that, my son, the things that he went through collegiately, and then to be able to put himself in a position to mentally overcome, recognizing he's probably going to be an undrafted rookie free agent. But yeah, just going through the draft, like recognizing the different names and appreciative of all those guys that put them, their families and themselves in that position draft. It took on a different meaning. It was very special. Just to sit there and we were just chilling. And so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and we're going to get to the undrafted receivers, Qadir included in the second segment, Q. So I'm really excited for that one. But I do want to look at the undrafted class as a whole, every position involved first. And I think when you talk about Baltimore's history, Q, with undrafted rookie free agents, I mean, we know they had that long streak dating back, seemed like forever ago. It broke a couple years ago, but they have had consistent success finding guys who can contribute. It's not just about the first round or the second round, but there have been plenty of wildly successful undrafted free agents in the history of the Baltimore franchise. And I think you kick this off if you're talking about this year's undrafted class, Q, with Bo Braid, the Maryland safety, a local guy, and someone that a lot of people expected to be drafted on day 3, maybe 5th round, 6th round, but Baltimore gets him as an undrafted free agent, brings some physicality, brings some coverage skills to the table. And we know, Q, the safety position right now, you have Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams. No questions about those two guys as your starters. But the depth, they lost Geno Stone, Daryl Worley's still the free agent. They did draft Sanusi Kane in the 7th round, so that is some more safety depth. But right now, you have a couple of younger players in Kane and Braid as your only safety depth at the moment. But Braid is one heck of a player.
Yeah, Braid certainly is. I think the big thing for him and for the entire undrafted rookie free agent class, it's the fact that when it was time for them to shine at their pro days, they did it. Because you heard Eric DeCosta say, and obviously me just being on the Ravens radio and all that, I've known this before, but if you're not a combine player, then it's very difficult for the Ravens to draft you. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean anything, because for me personally, I have seen, like, throughout my time watching, covering, playing in the NFL, man, there's some dudes that were dudes, really just Hall of Fame type guys that made it into the league. And it was just because, for whatever the reason, a smaller college, bad coaching that didn't know fully how to use them properly, all those things. And so now Bray gets that opportunity for himself to, yeah, sure, I recognize, hey, I might have not been able to go up against a top level tight end or offense, or maybe my coaches, the call was a different call and whatever that might mean for me. But all I know is the Ravens saw something in me. I'm about to go out there and prove it.
Right. And that's exactly what it is for all these guys. And I think even for when people and these players, they're looking for opportunities as an undrafted free agent, I think they see Baltimore's history and they say, all right, where's the best opportunity for me? And obviously it depends positionally, how many guys are with roster spots, practice squad. There's a bunch that goes into it, but Baltimore's history gives them opportunities and says, hey, other guys have had a really successful time as an undrafted guy here. Maybe that's where I'm going to go. But outside of Bo Braidq, I think and there are a few people are very excited about, but Iowa defensive end / edge guy Joe Evans is a really interesting and intriguing guy. He was actually a quarterback in high school, and he was a walk-on linebacker, had 9.5 sacks last year. He's 6'1", 246, so he can play both inside and outside. But in terms of him, past 2 seasons, 121 tackles, 29 tackles for loss, 23 sacks. Plus, you mentioned the combine not testing well. Well, Joe Evans certainly tested well. Had a 41.5 vertical leap, 4.67. Second 40, again, is a 246-pound guy. Now, I'm not sure if the Ravens are going to have any room in their edge department / defensive line room to take on another guy. But Joe Evans is accomplished. And at this point, I think Baltimore, they need a couple of accomplished guys that can maybe come in there and contribute. So I'm not saying there's not a shot for any of these guys, because there always is. But for Joe Evans, I think Baltimore liked what they saw production-wise.
Production-wise, it's huge. And again, it is a scenario where does he fit our scheme? Is his mindset of an aggressive one? Can he, for him, and how to make the team, or at least bare minimum, make the practice squad? It's, all right, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to show you I got a high motor. Number 2, I know that from a production standpoint, I got great technique. And number 3, which technically could be 1A, is how do I assimilate my mind as far as all of the complexities of what the Ravens do? A positionless defense. That's their motto. And it's like, hey, man, we're interchangeable in so many ways. So the production absolutely shows that you're deserving to be on this stage. Now, put the pads on there. Guys are going to be different. You're 6'1", 246. They're going to be some big boys. Can you kind of turn speed to power? That is a big if, because them tackles, them guards, are some big boys. They're strong. They'll eat you up. You get to that second level and get swallowed up. Maybe we'll have some things we need to work on. But for Joe, I think this is a good opportunity for him to show that he belongs on this stage.
Yeah, and speaking of strong, you have another Ravens undrafted guy here, defensive lineman Jamion Franklin, who ended up putting up 36 reps on the bench press at his pro day. And if you're talking about combine, that would actually rank second out of the entire combine. So Jamion Franklin is someone that in his career, 70 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, 6 passes defended, 2 quarterback pressures as well. So he started at Notre Dame and he went to Duke. So obviously Duke is known as the big basketball school, but has had some pretty quality NFL guys as well. It's not like they haven't had any guys come into the NFL. But to me, I think that, again, is there a possibility the Ravens do they keep 6 defensive linemen this year? Because right now they're 5 are set, right? But is Jamion Franklin someone that can do enough in the preseason to make a name for himself, to make the Ravens go into this tough decision mode that says, well, this guy is too good. We might lose him if we release him. The Ravens have a lot of defensive line depth already, and I think even if Jamion Franklin doesn't make the roster, he's a pretty strong practice squad candidate.
Yeah, for Franklin, it is about development, and it is about scheme. It's about, well, can I play special teams, and can I give the offense the proper look that they need to have going up against Cincinnati, going up against Pittsburgh, going up against Cleveland? Can I give them those necessary and proper looks against, a team like the Rams. I need to be that guy if practice squad wise to continually get better week to week. And I can't sit back and act like I've arrived. I can't sit back and act like I'm deserving. I'm going to earn it. And that's the big thing, I think, for him. And that's a tall task because of the fact, as you mentioned, the depth. Depth is critical in this league. And when you got it, Ravens do, that's a good thing. Now, X factor, injuries. You get dinged up. Now you got a guy that you can go in there and has had that production. That's really important. That's key.
It is. And especially when, the NFL is a physical game, Q. Injuries happen all the time. Teams deal with injuries every single season. So even when you're talking about, the Ravens signed, Tulsa offensive lineman Daryl Simpson. On the offensive line, they have a lot of guys who are competing for roster spots. And is Daryl Simpson going to be somebody who comes in and makes a name for himself? Or Morgan State, another local defensive back here, and Morgan Tolles, who actually went to St. Francis standout. He went to LSU. And to me, these guys, while their positions are going to be competing with a lot of other players, there's still potential for these guys to make a name for themselves, whether it is sneaking onto the final 53 or just making the practice squad in general. But coming up, we're going to be focusing on the undrafted wide receivers, Q's son, Qadir Ismail, and a lot more. So stay tuned. Plenty to talk about here on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Monopoly Go. And all right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. I already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums or big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot Pachenko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. We're back, our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with Qadry Ismail and Q. Undrafted-wise, again, I think this was a pretty solid undrafted class for the Ravens, not just talking about one position, but just as a whole. You look at every position, feels like they got a pretty solid contributor at a lot of them. But wide receiver-wise, Baltimore did bring in a couple of undrafted wide receivers. Now, obviously, your son Qadir did get the minicamp invite. So I want to start there. Let's start with Qadir. For those who don't know about him, for those who might not be familiar, tell people about Qadir, his strengths, what he brings to the table, and why you think that this could work out here in Baltimore.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to put my scout hat on and, just keep it a buck. I don't think I need to be dad mode or anything like that. When I look at his skill set, he obviously stands 6'6". He's 232. The main thing is he started off in college. He obviously played locally here at John Carroll in Bel Air. But for him, when he went to college, he was a quarterback. And so in his mind, he has this cerebral understanding of how to be that leader, how to set the stage in the field and all those things. I think what was tough and difficult for him was that his coordinator was let go the season before he was set to start. And so he went into the spring with a new coordinator. I thought he competed well. He felt he competed well. He brings in his own guy and, okay, cool. Go into that summer camp. They competed well again. The new coordinator wanted to go with his guy. We understand. Got to do what you got to do. The next year, from the aspect of Qadir, taking that next step, okay, now all of a sudden you got COVID. COVID happens, and it's like mother of pearl. I think for him, the desire to continue to play came the realization that he didn't really feel like he got a fair shake at quarterback. So let him be the football player and show that, hey, man, you know what? I'm not a complainer. I'm not a, they did me wrong kind of a guy. And let me move over to receiver. He moves over to receiver. Now, of course, that's my wheelhouse. There were some things that I helped him with. But, for the most part, I'm allowing the receivers you're a receiver coach. You at Villanova, you know the offense, you know the system. Go ahead. go forth into the land of the living and do your thing. He literally was set to start. And from all that I was told in training camp, like he was killing it. And there are 4 guys that were draft eligible type of cornerbacks that everybody gets in the groove with, and they were locking down receivers. The only person that weren't locking down was Qadir. Again, the one guy, actually CB, Christian Benford, he literally is up with the Bills. He was their 6th round pick, and he's actually starting over their 1st round pick. Qadir was very much in the groove of working against him and being very successful with it. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, Qadir, you keep doing what you do. Sure enough, right before the season starts, he has a ligament injury. I'm like, mother of pearl. Well, I don't have mental training on my shirt just to wear it every week and be like, I'm cool. No, this is a sports performance company that I have and own. And literally, I knew there were some things that were going to help him be able to get back. It was supposed to be a 12-week injury, and it turned into a situation where he was out only 4. He gets back. The game he gets back was against the number 2 team in FCS, was against James Madison. Goes out there, kills it, does an amazing job. And I'm like, man, I'm telling you, there's a lot of mental toughness. But again, quarterback play makes a big difference. I don't think, in my personal opinion, from my football eye, there were things that I saw that I'm like, man, that doesn't make sense to me. You guys aren't seeing things the way you need to see them. Be that as it may, year comes, year goes, next year goes out there, does his thing. Let's progress down to Samford, where he now is like, okay, cool, I got 2 years to play in a system, which is an air raid system. He has a Jones fracture. Well, the Jones fracture was because of his time in Villanova and some of the conditions of the field and some of the issues that transpired there. So now here we go. He literally plays the entire season with it and gets limited time. He gets the surgery. He is ready to go. Now, the surgeon only put in 2 screws. What they should have done was put in screws in a plate to make it firmer. End of the year comes. Now, all of a sudden, it was, we need to do surgery again. He does it. Again, here's part of the trials. Here's part of the mental toughness on his part to overcome it. Ready to go in training camp. Here's my disappointment. Again, from my football eye, I'm like, my God, man, you're putting that guy over Qadir. Okay, can't say anything. Boy, I got to just be quiet. There's things that I know that I'm like, man, that's just not good. And season goes on. The time that he gets in there, he is very productive. So now, season's over with. His resume, a lot of undrafted rookie free agents. We just talked about him in the first segment. They got phenomenal resumes. His resume doesn't look as everyone else's. But you got to look. And that's where I think, and I'm appreciative of the Ravens and other teams that had called and looked into and saw him perform pro day training. And they saw that, wow, this young man got skills. So he's healthy. He's ready to go. And I think from the larger picture, he crushed his pro day and showed that, look, I don't mess around. I know what I know. I think from a mental training aspect of things, his body is as primed as it can be. He gets a camp invite for the Ravens, and they got 90 men. Thank goodness for COVID, in the sense of there's opportunities there. He just needs to show what he can do. He's already proven it, or else he wouldn't have got the invite. So there's some things there that I'm looking at that I'm like, kudos, bro. You earned it. You're in this position now. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday, going to show what he can do.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about, Hugh, the fact that he's 6'6", I mean, we know the skill set is there, but the Ravens, we've talked about it, bigger bodied wide receivers are the name of the game here. The Ravens do bring in Tez Walker in the 4th round, but for these undrafted guys, I think it's an opportunity to maybe sneak their way onto the 53 or a practice squad spot. So obviously Qadir getting the invite. Also, the Ravens bringing in Ole Miss wide receiver Dayton Wade, Rutgers wide receiver Isaiah Washington, North Central Illinois wide receiver D'Angelo Hardy. And the common theme is Washington 6'2". You have Hardy 6 foot. Now Dayton Wade is 5'9", but Qadir's the biggest. He's the tallest out of all those guys. So it's going to be really exciting. But also, Q, I just want to talk about the state of the wide receiver room to you right now. Do you think that these undrafted guys, Qadir included, I mean, what do you think the game plan is moving forward? And do you think that in this wide receiver room, there are plenty of opportunities for 1, 2, maybe even 3 of these guys to make an impact and earn either roster spots or practice squad spots?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at the whole wide receiving room, the undrafted guys, the guys that are there now, heck, even Qadir from wide receiver hybrid tight end aspect because of his size, Todd Monken's offense is very versatile with tight ends as well. You and I both have talked about it ad nauseum. We know what the tight end room, as far as the upper tier room, Kohler, likely, Andrews, boom, as you go up. But there are other guys that need to be able to get an opportunity. And if that hybridness pushes him to that direction, Qadir's skilled enough and football intelligent enough to be over there. To the receivers that we just went over just now, I think the main thing for them is how do they handle coaching and adjustments? Because in college, you don't get press coverage, or if you do, you rarely got a really top-level guy. They're fast, but they don't have good technique, so you're getting out of your break, and you're wide open. Now, that's wide open in college. Bro, that's wide open in the NFL. And those contested catches where you're like that, you can see my receiver finger.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, look at your fingers. Yeah, my fingers are called playing. So anyway, the point of it is when you look at this, the separation, how can you create that on a consistent basis? And, you go out there and you compete on a daily basis. You're out on an island by yourself. And I think that's the one thing you look at when I see guys who are trying to make the team. Man, you just gave me a whole bunch of information. You gave me a formation. You gave me whether I'm a left side, right side, what are my responsibilities? Oh, snap. What are the defensive guys doing that I got to combat against? How do I remember all that? And then I got to make that adjustment. That's pretty much what helps you get on a team or, well, you ain't on a team, homie. Sorry, don't know what to do.
I think it's in life, Q, not only sports, but the more you can do, the more of an asset you are is for every single person in their life. And I think when you want to break it down from a sports perspective, I mean, the NFL is going to not only positionless defense, but hey, you can play wide receiver, you can play tight end, you can do all that, on the offensive line. You can play tackle, you can play guard. I mean, Patrick McCary can play all 5 positions. That versatility is huge. And I think for coachability, that's another really good point, just because that shows that, hey, not everything might be there at this point, might need a little bit of development, but he really took that advice and he's putting it out there to see. So that as well, both those things for all these undrafted guys. And just very quickly, some of the players we didn't talk about in terms of undrafted players for the Ravens, Maryland offensive lineman Corey Bullock. So they brought in multiple Maryland players. Also, Alabama offensive lineman Darian Dalcourt is a really interesting one to me. Florida quarterback Emory Jones. I know the Ravens took a quarterback in the 6th round. We'll talk about that in the final part of the show. Also, you have guys like Oregon State defensive back Ryan Cooper Jr. You have, they're bringing in long snappers, Randon Plattner, although they're pretty set there with Nick Moore. Oregon State tight end Riley Sharp. And then you have Rutgers linebacker Deion Jennings, who I actually think could be an underrated guy to maybe sneak into that special teams linebacker role. So bunch of undrafted gems for the Ravens. We talked about some of them, just listed some of them out there as well. Coming up, we're going to be talking about a general 2024 draft analysis, but of course for the Ravens drafted players, we'll get Q's insights on those guys. Coming up next here on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big one of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. For me, I'm a big Denver Nuggets guy. So they beat the Lakers in 5. Hopefully, we're able to win some money off the Lakers-Nuggets series on FanDuel. But if maybe you want to win some more, you can go over to FanDuel, bet on that Nuggets Timberwolves second round series. Nikola Jokic, Anthony Edwards, going to be a really fun one. So if you want to bet, Nuggets in 4, Nuggets in 5, Nuggets in 6, Nuggets in 7, or if you believe the Timberwolves are going to win, I think it's going to be a really close series. Visit FanDuel.com/lockdown to make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're back. Our final segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still talking with Qadry Ismail. And for those who don't know, Q, we were together for night 1 of the draft. Q, if you do not know, I'm a part of the Ryan Ripken show with Ryan Ripken, obviously. And Q, very thankfully, we were finally able to meet in person for the first time. And the rumors are true. Q is very tall and I'm very short, by the way. It was very apparent when I did the handshake and I was like reaching up there.
I mean, that was hilarious.
But he was in studio with us on Thursday, did a huge, 5-hour draft marathon. Q came in towards the end, and we were kind of talking about, all right, how's this board fallen? The Ravens get to 30. They pick Nate Wiggins. And Q, I know that you were all over the Graham Barton trend. I think you still blame me for that, by the way, because I mentioned it. And so, yes, and Q, I think everybody agreed with you.
Oh, chilling. And we sitting here like, gosh, dang it, we coulda, woulda, shoulda. I'm be like, I'm just gonna give you the side. I'm just
Oh, he did. Oh, he gave me the side eye. I'll tell you that. But and Q said Graham Barton on Locked On Ravens. He goes to Tampa, but Nate Wiggins is the pick. You haven't said your opinion here on this show, so I want to get it. How'd you like the pick positionally, and obviously Wiggins the player?
So I think the swagger, confidence, matching up with the talent is intriguing to me. I used to be, oh my goodness, this is like, yeah. But then when you see some of these first round guys, and like I said, just for this pure fact that I was on the Ravens radio and got a chance to kind of sit up close and personal and talk with them and then talk with the coaches, there's a big learning curve. And sometimes, like we on the outside, we be hyping it, bro. I'm telling you. And I even when I was on radio, I'm like hyping it. And all of a sudden I see, I'm like, dude, ooh, you didn't do that in training camp. Ooh, this is the regular season. I forgot. Yeah, you going up against, golly, the likes of a, throw a receiver out there, AJ Brown. Oh, and it's you got, well, T. Higgins is still in our division, who knows? But you got Amari Cooper. You got, Jamar Chase. You got some dudes, man, like, Pickens in Pittsburgh. And he's got, Fields and who's our boy, the other quarterback, Russell Wilson. Like you got some guys, like in my opinion, man, you can't be slipping because there's a lot to go on, and Zach Orr's defense is going to have its own wrinkle and things to it. Can he do it? Of course he can. Can they put him on an island to be successful? Of course they can. Is he talented? Heck yeah. Is he, ready and up for the challenge? 1,000%. I don't think he would even, be considered. But I think there's, the cautionary tale for me is like, all right, okay. I've seen it. I've just seen it. And I think, though, as the year goes on, homeboy learns the art of recovery as far as his body. I think that dude's going to be blossoming into a baller and going to make some significant plays for the Ravens.
There was some workout video yesterday, Q. I don't know if you caught it or not, but it was of Nate Wiggins training with Patriots wide receiver Javon Baker. And credit to both those guys. They won reps, they lost reps, but it felt like both of them were, one, obviously working on their craft, which you should be doing when you're training at this point in the offseason. But two, the thing that popped to me was the Wiggins recovery speed on those reps, where we know he ran the 4.28. We know he has that competitiveness as you talked about. We know the Ravens love their 3-corner rotation. So I'm expecting Wiggins to play a role for them pretty early and often this season. Even if he's not the quote unquote starter, he's going to be behind Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Stevens. Obviously, let's get to day 2. We'll get to day 3 and then we'll get out of here. Okay, let's talk with day 2 first. Roger Rosengarten and you have Adisa Isaac, offensive lineman. Edge was the position there. Rosengarten, a super athletic offensive lineman. The anchor, not as strong. It's almost similar to Wiggins, where both those guys need to put on weight. Now, I'm not expecting that till they have the first full offseason of an NFL strength program. But to me, you have Adisa Isaac, who was a second-round value. You get him in the third. I do think it was pretty quality value for both of those guys.
Yeah, so I know this is where, I not necessarily struggle, but I know you draft Knicks. You guys will look at value and all that. And again, I go back to, I've seen so many drafts where I'm like, man, because you even posted it up as far as second round picks for the Ravens. And you could have easily said, oh man, that was a great value. But then all of a sudden you look back on it as opposed to trying to project forward. And you're like, yeah, Torrey Smith and Kelechi Osemele were the only two guys that I'm like, man, now that was great value. So from a football eye standpoint, and not necessarily a draft Nick guy, and I'm not trying to trip, I think both guys have opportunities before them. I think from an offensive line standpoint, Rosengarten is going to be in the mix to compete. And I think, his mindset is really, I don't think the size bothers me. I think his technique and his speed of movement is what's going to help him. I think Adisa, the biggest thing for him is the positionless defense. You give me a call, am I freezing or am I playing? If I'm freezing, then you're going to be Adafe Owe in the very, very beginning when you first got here. If I'm balling and I'm just like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Now I'm listening to Kyle Van Noy give me little details that can help me. And when I hear Roquan call the play, I'm like, oh, okay, I can go fast. Then at the same time, there's special teams, bro. You're going to be on them. Be ready. And that's something that I think all rookies got to recognize and got to be ready for it. You can get on the field via special teams, and I think that's going to be a great way to assimilate yourself in the league.
And I think when people talk about special teams, and some people are like, well, third round pick playing special teams, that's, he can't do that. It's too high of a draft pick. You got to save him. The Ravens had Marlon Humphrey and Matthew Judon playing special teams as these were not rookies. They were stars when they were playing special teams. You got to contribute in every aspect, Q.
Absolutely. My God, man. Kyle Humphreys was on all the special teams his rookie year, all of them. First round pick, all pro. And last year he was like, yeah, no, I'm still going to do some. So they had him on some of them. So you got to miss me with all that. This is the professional ranks, bro. College, we've got 120 guys at a major Power 5 conference school. This is man, what is it? 47 on game day, I think it is. 53 roster, 47. Man, come on, bro. You playing special teams. So that whole you ain't
can't avoid it.
You ain't in college anymore, bro. You ain't in college anymore.
Yep, can't avoid it. Let's get to day 3, though, quickly, Q. Tez Walker, the wide receiver out of North Carolina, was the first pick for the Ravens in that 4th round. Big body player with definite speed. Then you have TJ Tampa. Again, you mentioned that value thing. 2nd round value at the end of the 4th round. Now, he fell. I can tell you why he fell. It's due to the combine. Ran a slow 40. We've seen that before with Kyle Hamilton. So, look, if it pans out the same way, I think the Ravens will be loving that a little bit. Then you have Rasheen Ali in the 5th round, running back out of Marshall. So that's maybe the Keaton Mitchell replacement so he gets back healthy. Devin Leary, the quarterback, was the pick. Not a lot of people, myself included, understood. I mean, I get, backup quarterback. We talked about it, Q. But after Joe Milton, I just think he could have gotten a guy in undrafted free agency. But you know what? Not a shot at Devin Leary. I just think positionally. And then you have
some Joe. That's all.
I do.
Ooh, there's another Joe. And he has a strong arm like my beloved Joe Flacco. Ooh, let's go with Joe Milton.
And you know where he went? The Patriots. So now we have to deal with Strong Arm Joe and with the Patriots after Strong Arm Joe for the Ravens was beating down the Patriots on his way to the Super Bowl. But then you got the 2 7th rounders, Nick Zamek, the center from Michigan State. And then we talked about Sanusi Kane, the Purdue safety, a bit earlier. How'd you like day 3? I know it's kind of a whirlwind with everything going on and so many picks, especially later. But the Ravens addressed some needs in wide receiver. They doubled down at corner. Obviously, running back was one as well. It felt like they were trusting their board at that point and drafting guys who they felt pretty high on.
Yeah, so the point that you made was addressing needs, the savvy of not, trading up or down for that matter. Just like, all right, cool, we got guys. I'm hoping their board is a good board. If that board was a good board, then they got some good picks. TJ, Tampa, like to my mind, I think good. You fail. Ha. So from a value aspect, purely, I don't wish, you gotta get the money, bro, and get as much money as you can. So, too much stock is made upon the guys, combines and not being a football player, and it worked against him. Okay, now let's go out there and prove it. I think there's a lot of guys in those day 3 spots that are out there to prove that they belong in the NFL. That kind of was my take on it.
Right, and I think for the Ravens, you could argue they should have picked a couple of other guys here, maybe a couple of other guys there. But at that point, you're swinging at guys that you hope can be valuable to you, right? The hit rate goes down the further down you go in the draft. Now, there have been plenty of successful and Hall of Fame 6th-round picks, 7th-round picks, 5th-round picks. But at that point, you trust your board more so, and you also fill out your needs in the process too. Q, I appreciate you, though. Thanks so much for hopping on. Tell people where they can find you and what you're working on. Draft season's over, so we got a lot of lull period, but obviously we got rookie minicamp coming up here.
Yeah, rookie minicamp is going to be crazy because I'm going to be as a dad. But I think it's going to be great. I think overall, just across the board, missiletraining.com is where you can go see what I do as far as, preparing people. And clearly I have skin in the game as far as preparing my son. So I'm excited for his opportunity to show what he can do. But it doesn't matter if your son, your daughter, yourself personally. I have a group that is well into their 50s and beyond. I have, people that are young in their 30s and 20s that are really making progress with their movement and their lifestyle, their ability to live. And live means movement, proper movement. At the same time, WJZ, we have our shows all the time, that Purple Connection, as far as on the web, as far as on TV. We have our Purple Playbook show that's year-round as well. Check me out on that. And, there's a thing that is called Locked On Ravens. I'm on that with my favorite guy, Kevin Ostreicher. And, we just break it down, chop it up. And now we're going to really be chopping it up because now here comes where we can at least look at people and not be guessing.
Q's favorite part of the offseason, for those who don't know, is the guessing game. No, I'm just kidding. He despises it, but it's okay because we're past that point. Maybe a couple veteran free agent signings on the way, but we'll know when those happen when they happen. So, Q, always appreciate you hopping on. The links to Q's work will be in the description down below, so be sure to check him out over at missiletraining.com and everything else he does. And, of course, he's here every Thursday with us on Locked On Ravens. That's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in. Coming up tomorrow, we'll be rounding out the week. More Ravens content. Stay tuned for that. See you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.